Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life, gbhbl.com for short. It's track by track time as we go to a short album that really shouldn't be an album, it should just be an EP. But I get it, he needed to do this, and hell, we got very, very lucky because what has continued on from this band, you've seen it in the title, has been more than enjoyable. In fact, there's a time of recording, we're a couple months away from a brand new one. It is, of course, Zeal Ardor's debut album, Devil Is Fine. Avant-garde, the debut album by the avant-garde metal musician Manuel Ganu. I don't know if I'm saying it right, Ganu?
You sounded better the first time. The first time you went Gagnu, that sounds good, but then the second time you went Ganu.
Yeah, okay, close enough. Anyway, he's great. Under his alias Zeal Ardor. It's initially released independently in April 2016, but was re-released by MVK Records on March 27th, 2017. Now, quick story here, because I remember something. If you watch a lot of our videos, you may sometimes think, oh, Brendan's always saying to me, oh yeah, you got me into this band and all that kind of thing. And I don't think it's right that it's never acknowledged the other way, particularly in modern times, because it can't be in the state that a lot of my musical taste comes from Brendan. He's older than me, so that's where my influence comes from. But still these days, it happens. I can remember exactly where I was when I heard a song by this, that you had messaged me and said you must listen to this track. And it was Come On Down, and it was at the front, I was at the front of my home here. I can still remember exactly that. So there you go, this one, Zeal Ardor, I owe to Brendan.
We owe to Manuel.
Well, yeah, but you're discovering. How the fuck did you even come across this?
Yeah, it's an odd one actually. I think I came across it randomly on the internet while looking for something else. Mm-hmm. I was looking for new music, but I was just looking for something a bit different. And I came across a forum, actually, which were talking, where it was, I don't even remember what the forum was. It wasn't like a metal site or anything, it was just a forum. And people were talking about it, and they listed these kind of like avant-garde sort of black metal bands down, and somebody listed them. And he was a one-man band.
Yep.
And at that time, I was listening to quite a lot of the one-man sort of stuff, like, because there was some good shit coming out from that sort of era.
Yeah.
With people like building their own kind of thing. And obviously this was before they were signed. And then it led me into his Bandcamp page, which had been like 3-4 years old by that point, where he'd made I think he'd made something like 500, 600 physical copies of the album, and they'd sold out God knows how many years ago. And then this forum, I think, was designed around trying to get him to make more.
Right.
I think that's what the point of it was, and that's when I kind of got interested. And it was like, well, it seems that for an unknown band to have like its own kind of forum page of people going, please do some stuff. I was like, oh, I want to check it out. And that's when I listened to, actually the first song I listened to was Devil Is Fine, and I really liked it. But it wasn't until Come On Down where I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, oh shit.
This is happening. Tell the world.
Yeah, we've had the pleasure of seeing Zeal Ardor a couple of times live as well, including in a very unique venue. I can't even remember the name of that place.
No.
It was in Shoreditch.
Yeah, it was in Shoreditch.
Like
an
old
like an old railway sort of station. Or, yeah, like Cavern Underground. It was called the Cavern or something.
It was something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it was a really cool venue. It was, in part, it was packed, and it sold like little stubby cans of beer.
Oh.
You had to buy like 6 of them to get you through a song. But it was something about the venue just worked for Zeal Ardor. It felt like this is where Zeal Ardor are going to play, like in cavernous kind of place, because we've also seen them
at the ballroom,
at the Underworld.
Oh, you've seen of course, Underworld as well. You've seen them 3 times then.
Yeah, and the ballroom, which is where they recorded their Live in London release. And for us, modern music, other albums that came from this, like as you'll see as we do the track by track here, for the most part on this album, this was a bridge to what would come. Yes. And the hype is fucking real, man.
The hype is very, very fucking real.
There should be more hype.
Yeah, particularly the current spate of releases and stuff like that has continued to impress over and over again. But it should be worth noting, if you were to go read the review of Devil Is Fine on the website, you might be shocked considering how much we're talking about to see it be only given a 7 out of 10. Yeah. You will find out exactly why as we talk this through. So, Devil Is Fine is the opening track. And the absolute impact the slavery spiritual singing is still felt on me now. The sound of the chains in particular is such a touch. The atmospheric build in the background, the feeling of something darker sitting there. What a song. Wow, it's spectacular. Yeah, simple.
Devil is fine. Nobody gonna show you the way now. Nobody gonna hold your hand, no. Nobody gonna show you the way now.
you're going to get very little of us disagreeing on this one here. You know, we didn't know it at the time, first listen to this, but this song is so perfect to introduce both this album, but also Zeal Ardor to an audience. To be your first ever release, I can't imagine a song being more kind of like descriptive and conjuring up images of what the band should be like, and for them, and then it is, you know. But yeah, same stuff. I love the change. I love the atmosphere of it, the feeling behind it, the great vocals. It's a brilliant live song, brilliant live as well. It just sets the scene perfectly, man. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it really, really is. And what I particularly love as well is this isn't your introduction to the sort of darker, blacker side of Zeal Ardor. And that's really fascinating because that then flows into In Ashes. And it's here we get what I would describe as the madness, the real shock moment. Because if you knew nothing and you're playing this to somebody who knew nothing, didn't know what Manuel looked like, what the rest of the band was, what the overall sound was, and you played Devil's Fine, and then you went, right, and here's the next one. And you get the sound of satanic evil, the horror feel as muted vocals increasing in tempo. It's genuinely uncomfortable shit, and then it transforms into a frenzy of black metal. And it's almost like I would love to re-experience that again, that transition, and go, oh my god, that's hyper black metal. That's not like chilled out atmospheric black metal. You're just screeching and rah, and I'd love to experience that again for the first time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's genuinely a really, really dark track, man. And I love it. I think it's the fuzziness. It's just creepy, inventive. It does kind of magic up pictures of like plantations at night with visibility down to nothing but hordes of people with you can just see flaming torches. That's all you can see, and it's just really, really dark. I think if I was not a criticism anyway because I love this song, but I guess for if you were a massive fan of the big hitters and the catchiness of some of the Devils in Fine and that, it probably might be a bit off-putting because it is fucking crazy. It is a really, really dark song. But that's why I love
balanced look at it, yeah.
That's why I love it.
I think it's important to have the balance as well. One of the coolest things I read about this album and description of his music and stuff like that was and I'm going to paraphrase here, not saying the quote exactly, but it basically was he wondered, mused on the idea of what if slaves and people of that ancestry had, instead of turning to God, had turned to Satan. And that's where that's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, but it's brilliant because I think I've read like the same sort of stuff, and the idea behind it is like, when you're going through that much pain and that much misery, and you're being told you're nothing, and you're not even like being treated even as a human.
Yeah.
Why you would have faith in a God? Where all man apparently is equal and everything like that, but you're not part of that circle. So it's actually kind of crazy. I think I remember him saying something along the lines of, it's kind of crazy to think that everyone turned to God to help them, but actually they've been slaves for hundreds of years. God wasn't helping. Why didn't they turn elsewhere?
It is fascinating. So, throughout this album, there are 3 tracks called Sacrilegium, and this is number 1 of it. And this is why, this and the other 2 are why this is a 7 out of 10 album. So this one is effects-driven techno music that transforms into something more synthy. It does nothing for me. I don't hate it, I just don't want to hear these sort of tracks again. They are filler.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's just an oddity. It's not fun to listen to. Don't really understand it. I think it's just odd, and I just wrote down, I just think this is one of those examples of, because he was a one-man band at the time, or maybe it was why he didn't, but when, a creative mind needs somebody to control them and say, like, don't do this, we're just going to make a cracking debut EP instead.
That's what, because the album is like 26 minutes long.
Yeah, it's pretty short, yeah.
And if you take out the 3 Sacrilegium tracks, it would be about 20 minutes long. Come On Down. Is there a better Zeal Ardor track? It's what sold me on them, and it's still brilliant. That intro that builds into the black metal, it sends shivers down my spine. I adore this track. It's one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life, let alone of Zeal Ardor. It's still as brilliant now, and I've probably listened to this song thousands of fucking times.
Yeah.
I can see no devil in the field. There's many trees and poplars, many seeds. Come on down, come on down, come on down, come on down. I love
Yeah.
Same. And that's when you know a song's great, because we've done other track by tracks where we've heard songs thousands of times and we're sick to death of them. but I've got no problem with listening to this one if it comes on again in an hour.
Yeah.
That's all good. As great as Devil Is Fine is on this album, this for me as well was a song that really sold them to me. Because this was the balance, this was everything Devil Is Fine had, and then everything In Ashes had, pushed together, but beautifully. Like, it works. It's sad and it's dark, but it's still beautiful. I think it's mesmerising effort. It's pure class. Sings on point. Atmospherics are amazing. Harmonising, which is such a big thing in Zeal Ardor, the vocal harmonising is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And to be honest, on any song where there's harmonising, it's brilliant. There's no point where, he's got a collection of backing singers with him, especially now these days where it's settled as a band.
Yes.
That are just as phenomenal vocalists. To be honest with you.
Incredibly
Absolutely
talented.
Brilliant. And this is perfect. Perfect song. No, I couldn't even imagine a negative. Like, how anyone would come up with a negative of this.
Yeah, it's that. It's a 10 out of 10 track where you just, you would struggle, because even the whole, what if it's not to your taste, if you don't like black metal, I'd be like, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
Don't cloud. If you've never heard this track, go fucking listen to it now. Stop listening to us. Children's Summon. The nursery rhyme melody gives way to a bit more technicality before we get some strong religious chants. This is an uber atmospheric effort that leans more towards blazing speed than anything else. It's actually quite different to anything else we've heard so far.
Yeah. It starts off because it starts off with that weird little melody.
Yeah.
It does kind of like. I remember the first time I listened to it, thinking like, "Oh no, we've gone into another Sacrilegious." When you didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
But fears of that quickly kind of assuade, and it's just a beast. Ripping guitars, drums are brutal, screams are raw and visceral, and the drops in from that into chants, like, just gives you goosebumps. Yeah, it's creative, brilliant. The melody used to entice you like the Pied Piper before then just smashing your brain in with just some really, really dark heaviness. I love why they do it. That's what they do. The chants you kind of get into the chant, don't you? And you're into it, and then bang, it's like, oh fuck, he got me again, the bastard.
Sacrilegious II. Sticking to the childish kind of sounds, this one to me had an air of like a mobile unit that spins above a baby's cot. But I don't care for this one either. Although the melody has some sweetness, and if this was the only one, and say like an intermission in between a lot of songs, I'd probably be a lot kinder to it, because I know it's 2 of 3, and I don't like the first, don't care for the third. It falls into exactly the same bracket.
Yeah, I'm also not a fan of it. I always felt like it maybe fitted the story or the concept a little bit more because of that sort of child's toy sounds.
Yeah.
And also following the song Children's Summon. But I'm probably reaching. The problem even there is that it's 2 minutes long. And after 30 seconds of the melody, it's boring, it's repetitive, and you don't need to keep going for another 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with it. If you did that even for, I know what you're saying about being the only one, but even a 15, 20, 30 second intermission before you go into the next song, it's the fact that it's 2 minutes long, so it's treated like a full song.
Yeah, 2 minutes is a full song, man. Hardcore bands.
Full album for hardcore bands.
Blood and the River. This is my second favourite track on the album. The power of the slavery singing it continues as the roaring black metal arrives. It's one of the most intense, but also one of the most impressive. It makes me feel so very evil hearing it. Love this track.
Yeah. Makes you feel evil. But yeah, no, it's another cracking song. Bit more like Devil Is Fine, with the chains and chants being predominant sounds in the intros until the heaviness kind of comes, and it's really, really dark, somber, atmospheric. Just heavy as hell, very, very clever, and harmonising's on point again. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Penultimate track, or the last one, really. What is a killer like you gonna do here? Moody. It conjures up images of a smoky bar where the Denzians sit in the darkness listening to avant-garde music and barely acknowledging anything. I kept seeing a lot of berets in my head. I'm not a big fan of this one, if I'm honest, but it does create nice imagery.
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's something a bit different. It's still got the dark lyrical content, definitely, and it's still got that edgy darkness to it. It's just kind of got more of a kind of heavy jazz blues sort of song.
That's exactly the image I'm talking about.
Just doesn't, I don't know, it builds nicely, and it's a nice sounding song. It's got a nice little bit of soloing and stuff like that in there. So it's interesting, I enjoy it, but I just don't think it's quite on par with the best that comes on this album.
That's the thing, isn't it? There is the best, and then there's everything else. And we wrap up with Sacrilegious 3. Look, we've already established I think these tracks are a waste of time. This one has a light sci-fi feel, making it my favourite of the 3. but that's not saying much at all.
Yeah, it's all right melodically. It's actually got melodies not too bad, and it's not quite as repetitive as the second one because it doesn't just do the same melody over and over again. But it's still not exactly clear why these songs exist in this release, how it ties into the concept, and because of that, it just feels like an oddity, and it's hard to enjoy.
There it is. That's the album as a whole. You know, its criticism is fair. What we dislike about it is basically Sacrilegium's all the way through, and we said it at the time. But this is the thing. We said at the very start of this, this was a transition album. This was an introduction. Here I am. This is what I can do.
Yeah.
Here is some of the greatness I can do. And we were, Stranger Fruit was highly anticipated, and it almost was a bit like, which is the second album, but it was almost going to be a bit like...
It had this kind of like nervousness of, like we weren't really sure at this point whether Zeal and Ardor were going to always be this mix of Sacrilegium and other things, or maybe they would go more towards the Sacrilegium stuff, or maybe come more towards the blackened kind of atmospheric metal.
Yep.
You know, so Stranger Fruit, yeah, there was massive like hope, you know, but also fear, and thankfully it's very much on our side.
Yeah, thankfully it fell the right way for us. Okay, top 3 tracks. I'd be surprised if we haven't got the exact same 3.
Blood in the River.
Yep.
Children Summon, Come On Down.
Really?
Yeah. And that was a tough one because there can only be 2 others that come into it because of the fact that it was Sacrilegium. And, it was difficult. It was easy to put 2 down, right? Blood in the River and Come On Down were easy for me. Devil is Fine, In Ashes, and Children Summon, I think, are all quite on a par for me.
That's
I love
it.
Devil is Fine, but it's just that, you know, what did I want? What was I enjoying the most? And it was... I love Devil is Fine, but I kind of see Devil is Fine, I guess, as a bit more like an intro to Zeal and Ardor, sometimes more than a song. I don't know if that's not fair on them, but...
No, I think it's fair. And the fact that you put them all on the same level is something I agree with. It became the problem. The first 2 I chose, of course, were Coming Down and Blood in the River as well. It's the 2 best tracks on the album, first and second. And then it would have been between In Ashes and Devil is Fine for me, and I fell on the side of Devil is Fine. Just because that was like such a great introduction, as
They're
you say.
interchangeable. They are, like, genuinely.
Very. But we will come back to Zeal and Ardor. It's not old enough now really to come back to just yet. Devil is Fine seemed like a good one to start with. We're going to do anything by them. Got any thoughts on it? Love to know if you have a dislike of this album. Love to hear your comments.
Yeah,
Let us know.
Like you only like the Sacrilegiums.
Oh, that would be fascinating. You would have to seriously justify that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?